This is what Prince Harry said about the Lovegrove matron, Pat. Pat was small, mousy, frazzled. Her hair fell greasily into her always tired eyes. Pat had many crosses to bear. The biggest seemed her knees and spine. The latter was crooked, the former chronically stiff. We went on mocking her as she came down the stairs. This is the king of woke, isn't it? This is my thing about the woke brigade. They're actually unbelievably unpleasant people. They're unkind, not be kind. This woman exists. Her name was Pat Jones. I've no idea if she's still alive. I'd love to know. And if she is, how she feels about being trashed in this way. Probably been talking about having helped take care of Harry when he was young, proudly. And this is how he repays her. How do our family feel about this? The guy's a shameless, disgusting hypocrite. And has the gall to get all uptight about the way people talk about his wife. Quite extraordinary. Well, still with the packet, let's go back to Roya Nicker from the Sunday Times. Roya, a lot of people are urging the royal family to hit back in some way. You've already suggested that they're unlikely to do that, but is there a tipping point here? I mean, if Harry does just continue to spray gun the royals, chipping away at the mystique of the monarchy, causing real damage, particularly in America, which, of course, this country relies on for the tourism that comes from the affection for the royal family. Could there be a tipping point where William, we've already seen him snap after the Oprah interview saying this is most definitely not a racist family. Could he come out again and say something, do you think?
I think that's what Harry would probably really want and really like. But I just don't get a vibe that that's what they're going to do. I think, you know, from all my discussions I've had with people close to the King and with William, my feeling is they want to just sort of do the, you know, show, don't tell response. And both the King and William and Kate are out on manoeuvres in the next couple of days. And, you know, William will be braced for people shouting out things at him. But where we heard him respond to the Oprah interview, he's now the Prince of Wales. He understands sort of the difference of position. I don't think we will hear him hit back. And I think that their view is that if there is going to be any likelihood of reconciliation, and I know it might not be something that you would do in your family, Piers, but the King is a father, and I think he feels he doesn't want to cut his son off at some point. That will be done privately and not on the record with interviews and on the record statements. It's just
but
not
Roya,
how
how
the
can
royal family go.
sorry to interrupt you, but
say,
how could they have a private meeting with somebody who, as you said, you've read the book like I have. I was absolutely staggered by the sheer volume of private conversations he's put in the public domain, even after Prince Philip's funeral. You know, the intensely private conversation with Charles and William after that, that's all in the book. Private text messages from Kate and so on. I mean, he's put everything out there. Why would they trust him as far as they could throw him?
No, that's the big problem. And, you know, I had a piece before Christmas where I was told that Harry and Meghan wanted a summit with the royal family and an apology and accountability. And I put that to, you know, the royal family's people, and there was sort of eyebrows going through the roof because of that very point. You know, Netflix had just come out. There is a major trust issue. But I think if there is any sort of hope of a reconciliation, they will try and have some sort of manoeuvrings behind the scenes. But I don't think there's going to be an on-the-record statement or any kind of hitting back. And the other thing I'd say is the royal family always keep a very close eye on polls.
Right.
And the YouGov polls this week speak for themselves in terms of Harry and Meghan's popularity. And I think at the end of the day, they know that Americans have their own minds, and I think America will always have a special relationship with this country. And I was in Boston with William and Kate when all the Netflix stuff was exploding, and the Americans are still behind our royal family.
Yeah, well, I'll come back to Maureen about that. I mean, I would have a summit with Harry, but at the Tower of London. Maureen, this suggestion that America actually still remains in love, I mean, to me, it was a huge moment when the Queen died as to how America might respond to King Charles. They've all watched The Crown. They all may have a jaundiced view from that series about what he's like. They may not have the affection and love that they have for the Queen, for example. So it's been a big moment, I think, for us here as to how America responds. Do you share that feeling that actually the love is still there for the royal family, for the monarchy?
Oh, 100%, Piers. I mean, I think the more that Harry and Meghan reveal themselves to be sort of the cretinous individuals they are, you know, when you talked about Pat, the matron at Ludgrove, you know, that passage, you know, had he at all expressed remorse for being such a horrible little kid, that would have turned it around, you know, but he seems to really revel in cruelty. And one of the details in the book that struck me most that I thought was so heartless was against his own father, Charles, who we Americans know of his boarding school experience through The Crown. And he writes about Charles still carrying his worn childhood teddy bear with him as a sort of emotional support, because he is still so wounded from his childhood bullying. And I can just tell you, I mean, I wrote about this, and the reader response we got, the Charles rose in estimation with that detail. That endeared him to people. And Harry is just falling further and further out of favor. He truly is digging his own grave. I don't see why the royals would interfere with that.
I mean, Richard, the big question now is the coronation is coming up in May. I don't think they should be allowed anywhere near the coronation, because not only is Charles getting crowned, but so is his Queen Consort Camilla, who Harry's just shredded in his book.
Look, the reality is, Piers, the royal family have got to maintain the moral high ground. You talked about.
Would you have them at the coronation?
I think they've got to be invited.
Why?
Because that's the moral high ground. That's the mystique. That's the magic. That's the ultimate quality of what we're talking about, the royal family. So, yes, they should be invited, but frankly, behind the scenes, it should be made very clear that they shouldn't attend. But the family itself has to maintain the moral high ground. And frankly, like a candle, let the couple just burn themselves out.
Paula, I mean, my question, which I think Anderson Cooper at CNN asked Harry, well, if you hate it all so much, the institution, the family, why do you want to keep your titles, which attach you to this? Just go and be yourself. Well, that wouldn't make any difference, was his response. Actually, it makes a lot of difference financially to be able to call themselves the Duke and Duchess of Sussex and to turn up at things like the coronation and the Jubilee parades and so on. Of course, that's their currency. Without that, what are they? They're just a pair of quacks in Montecito.
Shall I tell you what they are? They are the people who have identified that this great institution has problems, and that this great institution is not confronting its
We're talking about
problems.
racism again.
We're talking about racism.
There is no
We're
racism.
talking about domestic
but
abuse.
we've already said...
We're talking about unconscious bias.
Domestic
We're
abuse?
talking about ignorance.
What's domestic abuse?
Well, we heard about the fight, didn't we?
Well, Harry
with
pushing him
William-
into a dog
with
bowl.
William.
The bloke went to war in
him.
Afghanistan.
So
He's
what we
squealing about
know-
having his necklace broken and shoved in a dog
We've
bowl.
heard about mental health issues. So
Mental
what we know
Okay, let me
is
ask.
that this is
Okay,
a
Paula,
couple
let me ask
who
you.
have raised very important issues
these two?
for society,
All right, these.
and they need to be
okay,
addressed.
I hear you. These two have a foundation website called Archewell. It says it's about compassion. That is the bedrock of what they stand for. They've disowned all of her family, apart from the mother. The father lives 70 miles away, has never met his grandchildren, never met Harry. Hang on, let me finish.
What's the father who was trying to sell stories on his
The
daughter's
father made a
about
big
his
mistake for
daughter?
which he's apologised many times.
Okay, so he's
And
allowed to make a mistake.
Let me finish.
Okay.
They've disowned him and all of her other Markles. They've all been disowned. Now, all of his family, got rid of all them as well. Where's the compassion in anything? He said he didn't write this book to hurt and harm them. All he's done in the book is hurt and harm them. The guy wouldn't know how to spell compassion. He is to compassion what Madonna is to growing old gracefully. Right? Honestly, he is.
Piers.
No, but I'm sorry. And this idea that somehow we got domestic abuse because William rightly chinned him over being so insulting to his wife, or that we should care about their mental health when they don't give us stuff about the mental health of all the royal family they've been trashing. Tina, final word to you.
I haven't answered the question, but Tina, I respect you, so...
Tina.
I mean, look, it's
the hypocrisy that makes me puke.
But but I think they should be invited to the coronation.
Do you?
Yes, I do actually, because I think that they have, as you said, Richard, they have to take the high ground. They have to take the multi-generational sort of Chinese outlook to this situation. I feel that actually, between the lines, Harry's lobbying like mad to get back into the action. I mean, the fact that he didn't mention anything about the whole racism thing in the book. Obviously, he has been told, you have crossed a red line. If there's any more of this, Harry, you're out.
Or it simply didn't happen the way they said it happened.
I think he's trying to get back in. The fact that he praised Susan Hussey, what was that about?
Yeah, complete
that was a
nonsense.
complete bone that he was
Because he's a total hypocrite.
That's not the behaviour of a rational person.
No, it's
Think
not.
like that.
Well, I'm going to discuss that with Paul McKenna a little later. He's an expert in, that kind of behaviour. What is it all about? Has Harry lost his marbles?